It's CETV, and we're back with our panel of self-published authors, continuing our discussion about self-publishing. So before the break, we were talking about when you first decided that you would self-publish your own work, and I'm curious how much research you did and how much thought you put into actually selecting the company that would publish your own book.
Well, for me, I didn't really do that much research at all because I get a local magazine called the Monthly Aspectarian, and I see these advertisements from James Loftus, who is Reality is Books, and his site is realityisbooks.com. And when I first wanted to publish, I knew that he'd be the one because that magazine is in alignment with my spiritual philosophies. And I emailed him, and it was a very easy process, and he's wonderful to work with.
Okay, interesting. Nancy, how about you?
Well, I have a connection in that I do marketing and advertising, and I have my own company. And the print company that I use is in Wisconsin. And I was talking to her, and she had done 6 book covers for various people. And years before, she had said, Nancy, one day when you write that book, I want to print it. I said, sure, okay. And never thinking about it. And then when I actually wrote it, she said, well, I know of someone who's a very small publisher who I've done this work for, and perhaps you should talk to him and get a little insight into the publishing world, because I knew nothing about the publishing world. And as Jorge, you had mentioned previously, I learned quickly from talking with other authors that you can submit a manuscript and it could come up with a different title. It could be edited so that the story is totally different. And I thought, oh no, wait a minute, I need a little control. And in fact, I need a lot of control. I don't want my book changed. So I started out with networking and finding this individual and talking to him, finding out and reconfirming a lot of things that I had heard. And I quickly discovered that he was a very honest man and that he could give me some good advice.
And that's
where it started.
The company you went with.
That is correct. Even though he directed me to doing that, I did self-publish and actually did print my book with this woman that I had said that I would. So he was very flexible in letting me self-publish, have the printing done, yet use his advice and expertise in getting the book actually filed with the Library of Congress and doing those kinds of things.
Okay.
So it was a very nice mix.
Okay. Barbara, how about you? How much research did you do on publishers?
I don't think of it as research. I need to credit my writing group. I belong to a writing group of 6 people who keep me writing, who keep me honest, and would not have let anything pass in that book that they hadn't advised me about. You know, they'll say, oh, maybe that was your intention, but you didn't do it this time. Or you wanted the perfect word, and that isn't the perfect word this time. And sometimes I'll fight to defend it. Sometimes I'll think, no, I need to know this. But they helped me through the process.
Okay.
For me, it was actually a colleague of mine from Loyola, and she actually had a professor who had self-published a book and who was actually doing public speaking and, you know, sort of on the same vein as I, you know, would humbly like to put myself in. And so it was really the company that she used that then I used. It's a self-publishing company online, so it was very easy. You do all the formatting, you do all the design, and then you submit the manuscript. So I went with that route just because it was you know, so easy. So I didn't really do a whole lot of research. I've since jumped over to a different company. And I think that with that company, I did a whole lot more research. I think that once you sort of get your feet wet, you realize what you like and don't like. There are companies out there that can really do it much cheaper than others, and so all of these sort of issues and the quality and, you know, print and all of that, you become much more familiar as you sort of get into the door. So the research that I began to do was really sort of as the book began to have its own life, that I've sort of become much more you know, literate about what is available out there.
So you started with one company and then
one.
Switched to continue printing with a different company.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we have breaks coming up very quickly again, and so we'll start with another question before we break. And I'm curious if each of you, or if you went into the process expecting to make a lot of money from what you were doing, what was your goal and your intent in embarking on the self-publishing venture? A lot of times, you know, people, they want to write a book, they think, oh, I'm going to sell millions of copies, I'll make lots of money, and I'm just curious, we've talked a little bit, but what really was your motivation and ultimate goal in what you were doing? We'll start with you, Dawn.
Okay. My motivation was because I myself needed it. I wrote my book based upon my own observations and things that I used to help myself during the workday. And I felt that if it helped me, it could help somebody else. And that's my ultimate goal.
So you really went into it just to share your thoughts with others.
Absolutely.
And to share something that you found personally helpful with other people.
Absolutely. I'm just that passionate about enjoying my work and my work day, and I feel that other people.
It's CETV, and we're back with our local authors talking about self-publishing. And before the break, we were talking about the motivation for self-publishing, and posed the question if our authors went into self-publishing hoping to make a lot of money or sell a lot of books, and what really their goal and intent was. So Barbara, how about you? What was your motivation for going into this?
Well, making money and poetry, that's an oxymoron.
I've heard that.
I guess Emily Dickinson wrote thousands of poems and just sneaked them away in little drawers and hidey holes all over the house. I have never understood that. To me, it's a letter to the world. These are my observations. They excited me. They were like spiritual discoveries. I want to go tell somebody. Mm-hmm. So no, it had nothing to do with making money, or, I mean, there is no fame connected with it. It's the teacher in me, the kind of sharing I need to do, what I found I want to show and tell.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I would say something very similar. I paint, and as a painter, I think that, you know, you feel compelled to create for no other reason than to create. I started writing the book really more as a process of my own self-discovery, and I like Barbara's comment about, you know, honoring the ancestors, and I think that really try to do that with my book. So for me, it was really a journey of reconnecting to something before that was really sort of my ancestral existence, and the writing process was really it for me. Once the writing was done, then there was that sort of second side of the equation, whereas, you know, you want to share the news with as many people as possible. So I do have to admit that, you know, part of my strategy has been, how can I get it into as many hands as possible, but also into the right hands. I'm not interested in the idea of just anybody, or just, you know, selling the book and putting it on every bookstore, because I also think that, you know, creating a loyal readership and creating a loyal following is really important. I think that, you know, especially for writers that are starting out, you have to make that individual connection with people, and you have to really make that heart-to-heart connection. And the way to do it is really to go out and do the readings or meet people, and really make sure that your book is well received. And then whatever happens from there, you know, I'm still not writing it off.
Well, I also get the impression, too, with your book, that it really helps to explain, or sort of acts as a supplement to the consulting work that you do, and the other work that you do as well.
Exactly. So, you know, you really sort of have an entree to really explain philosophically what the approach is, and that's exactly it. So it becomes also a calling card of sorts.
Great. Nancy, how about you? Did you expect to get rich writing your book, or what was
Not
your...
at all. That was not the driving force. Actually, for me, it was my children. They absolutely insisted that I write this book. And I had tried several times to do it in the years past, and started and couldn't, put it aside. And then gradually little stories would come out about our lives in the Middle East. And they would go, oh, Mom, I didn't know that. I mean, and then one day my son said, Mom, you could get, this is a boy's statement, Mom, you could get hit by a truck. And I wouldn't know the stories. And that really hit me. I thought, the stories are important. So I said, okay, I'll try. And so that's where it started. And then when I wrote the rough manuscript and they read it, and I said, I won't publish this without your permission. And they said, well, you